Okay, so before I get started, any questions for anything we've talked about, covered? Did you get email links? Okay, good. So you could go back and watch if you wanted anything there. But any questions on anything or stuff you guys want to talk about before? I've only got 3 slides and there's not, so tonight I was kind of going to go just talk about where to go, how to go, some other resources to find information that I use. And then we could make a couple lures or something if you guys wanted. So it's kind of what I have for tonight. So if you guys don't have any questions, I guess I'll jump in here and start talking. Okay. Okay, so where to fish? So I've kind of touched on some of these things throughout the few nights, but we talked about this weekend's opening weekend. So all your lakes are opening up this week, Saturday. So you've got here close by, you've got Badger, Rock Lake's year-round. That one's a little tricky getting into. Clear Lake, Williams Lake, West Medical Lake, all those are opening. They're freshly stocked. What else? Up north, there's Loon Lake is opening. I think Deer Lake's already been open a month. So places like that. So wherever you're going, I tend to stick out here in Cheney. So I go to Clear, Williams, or Badger for the most part. But you still have Sprague Lake's been open. Ice is off of it. You've also got Roosevelt's a great option. Bigger fish, a little harder to come by, but a lot more water out there. You're catching 14 to 20 inch kokanee out there right now. Some of them are running 3-4 pounds. So some really nice kokanee out there if you're interested in that stuff. So I don't know if you guys have ever paid attention to either the stocking reports or the annual stocking plan, but I'll show you where to find that real quick. And then this is another helpful link. This is basically, it's on the Department of Fish and Game's wall show, and I'll show you that. But it'll give you information about each lake, what species are in there, where the launch is, and like links to stocking stuff. So we'll kind of start there and bounce around. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Get this loaded. So this used to be called Fish Washington, and then I think they just rolled it right into their website. I don't have a mouse. Hang on. There we go. So you can go in here and you can either type in a lake that you want to know about. You can go to the county. So if we want to just go here to Spokane County and say show lakes. There's all the lakes that they have listed for Spokane County. So then you can kind of see how big it is, right? And then there's the GPS coordinates, things like that. Let's just click on like Badger, for example. So to tell you a little bit about Badger, it gives you a topo map here, right? So you can see how deep the lake is, where the points are, where the shelves are, things like that. The species that are in there. Two-pole fishing, whether it's allowed or not. Whether there's, usually it'll say, just missing it right now, I think it's, they usually have a spot where it talks about if there's water access. Okay, here you go. So if I click on this, that's what the launch looks like. So there's a little dock here to fish from, and then actually that truck's in the boat launch over there. So you can kind of scout out where you're going a little bit. Gives you directions on how to get there. So all that's good stuff. You know, is there camping? Things like that. Now, I'm going to go here to this fish stocking reports. You can, well, here, let's try this. Catchable fish plants. So this is already sorted for this lake. So you can see this year they put in 150 rainbows, and this 0.33 is fish per pound, okay? So what that means is it's about it's 0.3 fish per pound, so it's 1.5 pounds, I think, or so, something like that. And then they put in 500 of these little guys. Now you're thinking 450 fish, that's not very many fish. Do you see kokanee on there? No. So this is what they call catchable fish plants. These are fish that are ready to be caught right now. And this is what a lot of people get hung up on when you go to these internet forums and stuff, and they'll say they didn't stock that lake this year. Well, they happened to miss last year putting a few of these in. COVID, I guess, I don't know. But they did stock them, for one, and they just wasn't on this report. But two, in eastern Washington, we rely heavily on what we call fry and fingerling, little fish that they put in like October and let them grow throughout the year that are catchable throughout the rest of the year. And so I'll show you how to get to that too now. So that's going to be this, no, not that one either. Let's go there and see if that'll get me there though. So let me just back up here from the main menu. If you go to the home page here, here's your fish and stocking reports. I'm going to click on this. Okay, so this link here is where we were just at, but it was filtered by that lake that we were looking at. This is the plan. Okay, and the plan is it's got a lot of good information in it. So we'll look at this year's plan real quick. Yeah, that's really hard to see there. And so this is by county right now. So I'm scrolling down here to Spokane. But this also gives you a lot of information about lakes if you're just kind of trying to look in one spot to find a few places to go, especially if you're going out of town. So there's Badger there. Okay, so here's Badger, and OD means opening day fishery, so that kind of gives you an idea of the fishing season. You know, if you look at Liberty Lake is March 1st to October 31st, so it's a little different, okay? But anyway, going back to Badger here, rainbow trout, the plan is in March or April to put 150 jumbos. That was that 0.33 fish per pound we looked at, okay? And then fry and fingerlings, in May they put in 15,000 of these little baby fish that grow up. That does two things. It's food for the bigger fish that are in there, but then those fish get bigger too, so it's a little bit of both. And it's really cost effective on this side. It doesn't cost them but a few pennies a fish to put them in. I think it's like 4 or 5 cents a fish. Cutthroat, and somewhere on this chart tells you what these are, but CT is cutthroat. So there'll be 1,000 of those. They're a little bit smaller, but 8 will be caught. And then 20,000 of the fry and fingerling. And then you've heard me talk about fishing badger for kokanee. The only kokanee that are in there are stocked as little guys that grow up. So those fish have been in there, and they're pretty much accustomed to that lake. They're not like a planter. So they plant them as they're tiny, and then they grow up. So you'll catch fish that are 6 to 8, 10 to 12, and 12 to 14. And so that would be a year 4 fish, a year 3 fish, and a year 2 fish. And so you can kind of get a spattering, just depending. At the end of the year in September, those bigger guys get a little bit more aggressive because they're getting more ready to spawn. I don't know how much actual area there is for them to spawn there, but they do go through that process. And they get more aggressive and they're snappier, so you actually end up with a little larger catch. Plus they've grown all year, but right in September you kind of get a bigger ratio of the bigger ones. So then if we look at like Clear Lake here, you know, here's your catchable. So they put a pretty good chunk of big fish in there, some jumbos as well, and then they have brown trout and tiger trout in there as well. They stock as fingerling. So quite a bit of food goes in there with these 53,000 fry and fingerling, and that's what those fish prey on. Okay. So this is the statewide plan. One other one I want to show you is kind of interest to me is, I think it's up here in, well, we'll look at Lincoln. Lincoln's kind of close. So you have Sprague Lake here. So again, they've got 20,000 in there and then another 98,000. So a lot of fish go into Sprague actually. Fish Trap is another nice little lake. if you want to get a little bit further out of town. I like fishing fish trap early in the year. About mid of June it starts getting funky, it gets warm. But it's good early on. Anyway, they put some good fish in there, some a little less pressure out there, I feel like. So it's a good one to go to. Nice, long, skinny. Okay, so let's look up here. I believe it's under Ferry County. No, let's see. What's the other one that's up there?
Stevens?
Maybe it is Stevens. Thank you. You know what I'm thinking of, right? Lake Roosevelt. Yep. Right there. So you can see it's a big lake, 88,000 acres. But they also put 750,000 rainbow trout in there. And these aren't little guys. These are 8-10 inches that by October are 16 inches and maybe a pound, pound and a half, 2 pounds. So pretty good sized fish out there. And that's a cooperation between the Colville tribe, the Spokane tribe. They have a confederated tribes. I don't know the name exactly.
So there are numbers around here as well? Or
Yep.
is this just
That's them plus the state for that 750. Now, most of these other ones I think are just the state. I'm just right there talking about Lake Roosevelt. That Lake Roosevelt 750 is a collection of all those. So there's a lot of fish that go in there. There is no kokanee stocking going on in Lake Roosevelt right now, so the kokanee that are in there are a natural run. They used to stock them, but they haven't stocked them in quite a while. There's a lot of theories that some of those wash down out of Canada or out of Ponderay, or even out of Coeur d'Alene a little bit. So, questions on any of that stuff? It's a lot to digest there, but it's what I do in the wintertime when I'm bored. I look at this stuff and kind of look at information, and you'll get to see what they put in there. What might be a good option to go to. Okay. Go back to this one for just a minute. Maybe. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Copy and paste. So like if you type in Clear Lake, you can see there's several Clear Lakes in the state. So you want to look here at the county name. Okay. Oh, another thing I should mention now that I think about this, trout derby. So every year for opening weekend, the fish that are stocked, there's so many that have a tag. It's usually like 5 to 10 per lake. And so if you catch one of those, you can report that tag, and they'll put you in a prize, and it's like a $25 Fisherman's Warehouse, Sportsman's Warehouse gift card or stuff like that. So it's kind of a cool thing. I'll jump over to that link real quick there. So you can see that's what the tag's going to look like. So you'll just see a little white, almost like a wire sticking off the top of the fish. And then as they report them, they'll tell you. So like this, I don't know that this is up just yet, but no, okay. Normally there's a spot where it'll say there's 5 fish left in Clear Lake, or there's 3 fish, and so you can kind of choose and pick if you're into that sort of thing. Also on Roosevelt, the tribes have been tagging a few fish for prizes too, and a lot of people don't know. They see this thing and they don't want to tell anybody about it, right? But you call that number and you get entered into prizes there too. So yeah, this Lowland Lakes link here is pretty useful. And there's more information here, stuff that on other sorts of fishing too. So let me go back and see what other notes I've got. Nope, I didn't want to do play from start, but we'll get back through the whole thing here. So other resources, social media, Facebook's a good one. If you're not on there, I get it. But a lot of your fishing guides are on there advertising, and so you can see where they're fishing. So all of a sudden you'll see a salmon show up, and you're like, oh, I wonder where they're salmon fishing. So I follow a lot of the guides just to see how they're doing, especially for Lake Roosevelt. I'll know if the kokanee bite's starting to pick up. There's several groups on Facebook that I'm part of, or that are out there. There's one for Lake Roosevelt, there's one for kokanee, there's Eastern Washington fishing one. There's good and bad with the groups. There's a lot of BS that goes along, but there's some good information too. Sometimes you get people wanting to help you, and sometimes you get people wanting to just pick a fight. So buyer beware, the best I can say there. But this Northwest Fishing Reports, it was really good when it started. I think it's less people are putting in reports now. But they have a TV show on Fox 28. They do. And so it's interesting. It's just northwestfishingreports.com, or just Google that and that'll come up. But I'll just pull it up. I'll just pull it up real quick to show you guys some of these things. And I'm really not really affiliated with any of these places. Like I said, I just it's where I go to get information. Did I not get? Let's just see what happens. Okay. So I'll just leave this here. So this is the hot reports lately. So you can see this guy's telling us the fish he caught out at Lake Roosevelt, and they have that kind of broken down by areas. This walleye Mark guy that's on here, he does a lot of walleye fishing, does well. And so they kind of have that broken up by the Spokane River. When it dumps in, there's north of there, there's south of there. So, but there's here's Chelan. So there's just all kinds of reports on here, and then there's historical stuff too, right? So you can go up here and go to reports. There's the latest reports, or then there's like lake reports, and then there's Columbia and Snake if you're fishing one of those two rivers. So this is like it used to be just Washington. It used to be called Washington Fishing Reports, but they've added others. So like here's an Oregon one, but let's just pick one to show you what it looks like. I don't even know where this lake is. So you can see this guy fished it here. And so sometimes on lakes that are popular, you can go back and see like what month was good. So let's say I'm going to be in Chelan in June. I'll go look at Chelan and I'll filter by June, and I'll see the reports and see what they were using. So a lot of good information here to kind of get you started. All right, now this could be dangerous. I'm going to go to my Facebook just for a second to show you what one of the groups is that I'm part of here. So like here's Lake Roosevelt fishing, and so like there's all how's the launch at Keller looking, so there's lots of good information you can gather. Here's a guy that showing his walleye stuff, and so there's just you can, if you kind of follow some of these or subscribe to them, you can get little nuggets of information. And Eastern Washington, here's another one. This one has good information. It's a little more open, and lots of random stuff shows up. There's a joke about Sprague Lake. So if you ask if it's frozen, everybody will say yes, and then you won't hear the end of Sprague Lake. So I wouldn't even talk about Sprague Lake on here. So yeah. And then there's people showing pictures of marlin. Look what I caught in the ice last week, and it goes way off the rails real quick. So just careful about Sprague Lake. I'll throw that out there. This Kokanee junkies, these guys are out of Chelan, but they have people all around. Information about Roosevelt's in here, and so you can get ideas of what people are using. Just all kinds of different stuff. So I won't bore you guys too much with that stuff, but. Why does this not want to? It must be because the TV's on. Okay. YouTube. If it's cold outside, I just pop on YouTube and type in rainbow trout fishing and try to learn something new. There's always somebody telling me something to do differently and how to do things, and I just file that away and file that away and file that away and add something to the toolbox. So when you're out there, you can go, hey, that guy said try this or try that, or he was doing this. And so lots of good YouTube people out there. There's a guy that fishes out of a kayak, Spilt Milt Productions. So that's a good one. His name's Tyler. He's a good guy. I did want to talk a little bit about what I call big game fishing. So this is a little past like the 101 stuff, but I'll just hit on some highlights of it unless you guys have more questions on it. But opportunities for catching big salmon, right? We don't really have a run close, I would say close to Spokane. You're 2.5 hours to Brewster. You're 2.5 hours to Othello, Vernita, the Columbia River there below Priest Rapids Dam. You're 2-3 hours to Tri-Cities. You're maybe 2 hours to Lewiston. So those are where you kind of got to go to get into some salmon if you're not going clear to like Astoria and spending the weekend down there or something. You can make those trips in a day. I would suggest finding some place to stay. So that's the Columbia River. I kind of break it up into 3 ways. You got the mouth, which is buoy 10, if you guys have ever heard of that. There's a buoy that marks the boundary between the ocean and the river. And so in the fall and the spring when the fish are running in, they'll fish that mouth of the Columbia there. I would suggest just getting a guide if you're going to go do that. It's unknown water. Lots of boats have problems out there, but it's fun because they're fresh and they're bright and they're full of energy. And there's usually good fishing if you go at the right time. Vernita is, there's a Vernita toll bridge just by Hanford, and it's right below Priest Rapids, and that's where a lot of the big fish, the salmon, are going in the fall to spawn. So it's kind of the ending ground. So they go stage up in there, and you can fish that until I think like the second week in October. So don't ever listen to me, look at the rules, but it's about the second weekend in October. You can go in there and fish for salmon. It's pretty swift water, and there's not really like a boat ramp. It's just like some gravel going into the water. But there's like a campground, so people just take their RVs down there, they camp out, and they can go fishing there. There's sturgeon, walleye, and salmon in there. But again, a lot of guides are in there, so maybe go with a guide, but good fishing in there. If you get more comfortable with it, definitely a good place to go. And then Upper Columbia, that's basically above Priest Rapids up to Brewster. So why Brewster is important, or why I talk about it a lot, is Chief Joseph is the last dam the fish can go to. There's no ladder at Chief Joseph. So behind Chief Joseph you have Rufus Woods Reservoir, and then you have Grand Coulee. And then you're in the Lake Roosevelt, and that's all on the Columbia River. But the fish can't get past Chief Joseph right now. And so a lot of them are spawning there at Chief Joseph. There's a hatchery there. And then there's another set of them that goes up the Okanagan River, which comes out right there at Brewster. And in July, typically most years it's warm enough that the Okanagan is too warm, above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, that they won't go into it. And so they pool up right there at Brewster and hang out in the Columbia where it's about 60 to 65 degrees. And so the fish kind of congregate there. And usually we have sockeye and Chinook salmon there to fish for. And it can be 300 boats. There's a lot of boats out there all doing about a mile an hour right next to each other, running into each other. But it is a lot of fun and it's good fishing. The Snake River, there's pretty good salmon runs that run up the Snake River too, spring and fall. So Little Goose Dam, I'm going to forget the name of the, something Rapids. There's a launch there, I can't name it, it's something Rapids. And a lot of people just anchor up below the dam and they let the current kind of pull their boat against the anchor, and then they put plugs out and they fish for salmon that way there. They fish at Lewiston. There's a confluence of the Clearwater River, and so there's fish going into the Clearwater, fish going up the Snake still, and there's a lot of fishing that goes on in there. I haven't really ever fished Lewiston, but I know they catch a lot of steelhead in there. Of course, when you get on the Columbia and Snake, read the rules because it's different at each little section, but you have opportunities for sturgeon as well. And then Lake Roosevelt, actually, usually in June, they open it up for sturgeon. And so if you're up by like Colville, Kettle Falls Marina in there. There's opportunities to fish sturgeon in there if that's something you're interested in. So those are kind of the big game opportunities that are close by. Questions on any of that? Kind of hit it quickly, but the sockeye can be a lot of fun. Usually if it runs good, some years we have like 400,000 fish coming through, and the limits can be 6 to 6 fish, and these are anywhere from 2 to 6 pound fish, and sometimes you have 4 lines out and they all 4 get bit, so you just got a craziness going on. So that's one that if you just type in Brewster sockeye on YouTube, there's a lot of cool videos on it. So okay, you guys want to build some lures? Or talk about anything else? Any other questions you guys just have that maybe I can help answer?
What is typically a guide cost?
Yeah, so it kind of varies. I would say on the least expensive end, if you're only doing like maybe say half a day or something local, you might get away with 150. That's probably gone up with fuel prices now. 200 to 250 per person. Sometimes you get guys that'll say if you got 3 people, I'll just charge you for the boat, and it's $600 for the boat and whatever. But usually I've been seeing 250 this year because of fuel. You got to remember, and it's tough to think about, but they got to drive their boat to wherever they're going too, right? So they got to haul that thing wherever they're going, and all that cost, and bait and tackle and reels, and it all adds up. But it's usually worth it. It usually puts you on fish. If you guys should have my email that I've emailed you guys, right? You ever have questions about a guide? If you think I can tell you if I've heard of them, if I fish next to them, those kind of things, I'll give you my thoughts on that. Or if you're looking for somebody, where to find one. A lot of those groups, if you say, hey, I'm looking for a guide, they tag the guide that they know right there. They'll just say here, and then you get linked up that way. So, but yeah, I think the going rate this year is 250. It was about 225 last year, but I've seen a lot of 250 this year with the fuel prices. So, but they provide everything. All you gotta do is show up with a license and lunch. And it's kind of nice, actually, so instead of me being in the back of the boat trying to rig everything and do everything, you just sit down and hand you the pole to watch. Here, bait this for me. It's like being a kid again sometimes. And then others are really good. It just depends on the guide what you're looking for. A lot of them will say, I'm going to show you what to do, and then you're on your own. So then you got to do whatever they've shown you to do that day, depending on what you're fishing for. But you can go for walleye, salmon, sturgeon, all year round. Okay, let's build some lures. So I have a smattering. I'm going to make it easy unless you guys really want to practice hooks again. You guys are welcome to take a leader that I have tied up already. You can take a hoochie or a fly and some beads. Even if you guys want to use one of these 3Ds. There's more stacker beads here. Just kind of get something you think looks cool and build yourself a lure. And then I can just kind of help guide that. You can add these little spinners to them in front of your whatever little bead here. So that'll just go on there, and it just sits. It's a little straddle, and you put your line through there. And then that'll spin around your beads. So see what looks cool and make yourself a lure. I don't know if I had a picture of any of them, did I? You guys need some ideas here. There's some spinners that I've made. Here's a walleye box. So, yep. I don't have a lot of wedding rings, but I do. They're in this box if you want to make some. Actually, that might be where they're at. This is more my walleye stuff here. This is my fly box. There's really about the only thing I can do with flies is make these tube flies for you. Hoochies is always a good go around one here. So You can see I have some with blades, some with spinners, some with beaks and bills, and so. Try to copy that one.
You got a center on it already?
Yeah, and then, you know, if this is something that it's not, I mean, you're going to spend a little bit. I shouldn't say that, but you can go. I showed this last week, I think, before class got started, but this is a great site to go get stuff if you wanted to spend, say, $50 to $100 just to get a kind of a collection of stuff. They have a catalog, and I would suggest just ordering a catalog from them. It comes in the mail, and then you have something to thumb through when you're bored. It's called HagensFish.com. And it was in the links I sent the first night in the email too, so you should have a link to it here. I do want to just point out a couple things on it though, so that when you get in here you're not kind of shell-shocked. So how they price stuff. Okay, so like these are the spinner blades that I have here, right? These are all typically priced, it says net price per 1,000. But just okay, so for 1,000 of size 0, it's $14.33. So that means it's like 1.4 cents each, or 0.14 cents each, or whatever that.
They sell them by the each.
So what they do is, if you buy less than 1,000, they charge you $1 per line item. So if I bought 10 of these, okay, I'm going to be like 0.14 cents each. So 10 of those is going to be $1.40. It's going to cost me $2.40 for those, right? And then I think there's a minimum order on the whole order of, I don't know if it was $50. I'd have to look. And then they charge you shipping, just FedEx, $10 or so to ship. But if you were to, if I were me and I wanted to spend $100, I'd thumb through here and find $100 worth of stuff to spend quickly. Amazon, there's a lot of stuff on Amazon too, but I just like being able to look here at this catalog, and I really feel like these are some of the best prices you'll find. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier just to buy some of the colors that you already want than to try to paint them. If you're into arts and crafts, by all means, go hog wild with the paint, but it is a little bit tedious to get painted stuff. But to kind of, you know, and there's nothing wrong with just going down to Walmart and picking up 2 or 3 Dodgers and stuff like that to get started this weekend. But if you're going to start getting into building your own stuff, it's definitely a lot better. So like if you were to go to the store and these hoochie rigs, I mean, these things are running $3 to $5 each. You know, so they do get expensive. Here's my biggest drawback on buying store-bought stuff is, one, I don't always know what pound test line they're using, and I might not want to use that style of hook or that size of hook. So it's just like with anything, when you're doing it yourself, you can customize it to the nth degree. What hook, what leader line I want, what colors. You know, maybe I liked everything about this, but the size of this blade, so I bought this lure and now I gotta go buy a blade too, whereas if you just buy all the components, it's usually more economical anyway. Now, you might spend a little more on the front side to get all the pieces, but you could make 10 instead of buying 3 or 4 lures.
These ones, you
Yeah,
put
let's see.
that
Okay.
through
Yeah, let me just show you.
here and then put the line through it?
So yeah, you put the stirrup on the blade. Yeah, with the U on the inside of the blade. Yeah, it is a trick, and I fight with these a lot too. So actually, this is one I've gone to, and the whole thing with this is I can just pop this on.
Oh,
Okay, and then your line just goes right through there.
okay.
And then if I'm like, that color's not working, oh, now I'm on pink.
Oh, wow. Hey, that's a good deal.
So,
That's in the catalog.
yeah, I got those on Amazon,
Oh,
but I'm sure they're on here. These guys have everything. So if you want to get into like fly tying and stuff, these guys have all the stuff to tie flies with too, and fixing rods, like the eyes on the rods. They have a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a really cool website there. While you guys are doing that, I'm just a YouTube junkie, so let's go to YouTube. So in Brewster, what we do is we actually there's a parking lot, and you can just pull your RVs in there. You don't have power, so you got to have a generator. But a lot of times I'll just stay in the boat. So there's a little bay you can kind of anchor up in, and I just stay out on the boat. So that's the sockeye. They were a little smaller last year. This is a guide out of Tri-Cities. But it's summertime, so it's cold at 5 in the morning, but by 11 o'clock it's 80, 90 degrees, it's warm. One of my favorite places to go for sure. Let's skip them talking. Let's get into action, boys. So you can see all these lights out here, those are all different boats. Yep, there's a little sockeye. He still had the other one in the net, and that's why he just reached over and grabbed it. So it tells you how quickly it can happen. Fishing can be really hot. And so this is like I think that's the Okanagan up in there. And so you just have all these boats in here just working that area. Look at that. He still has the two on the floor. That's what I'm talking. And is this left one getting bit? Or is that the one that's on the floor? It might be the one on the floor. And the sockeye are really one of the better eaten fish.
Especially when it's cold.
Yeah.
The warmer they get, the
Little,
softer.
yeah. So there you go. But I mean, it's literally everybody's right there. Here's another one. I think they still got all these fish on the ground. So I think it was a 2-fish limit, and he doesn't even have a rod in the water. So you see how he's got that weight up there?
oh, yeah.
That's how he gets them down in the water column.
Now, are they moving at all?
Barely a mile an hour. Yep. They are moving, but with the ripples and stuff, it's hard to really tell. And all they're doing is getting that dodger to do this.
Boy, if it's a 2-fish limit, you're done.
Yeah. Then usually you can catch a king or two.
Yeah.
That one got hit by a sea lion, it looks like.
Yeah. So they use a different, how do they, so you only catch 2 of those, would you fish the site differently?
A little bit different for the kings. Yeah. I didn't bring any of that gear. I do have a video on it. Here. Okay, so there's your dropper weight. and then you run this bumper back to your flasher, and I told you it had those fins on there that make that spin, and then this is about 36 inches back to that that one that opens up.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different shape there on that one for
What
this
did you
one.
call those that opened up again? I know I got it.
Super bait. They're called Brad's Super Baits. Hagen's will not have those. So that's like a Sportco. Oh, I just had it up there too. Really hard to come by right now. They're completely out of stock, it looks like. So that's like a scent bomb there. So again, that opens up and you can put tuna fish in there and run that ahead of your flasher to give you some more scent.
And how do you know where to run it? You said run it ahead of the flasher.
Yep. So you could put it back here. I just prefer to have it. Most of them I've seen are run right in that area there. So this thing is swinging around about like this, though, and it's also then whipping that lure behind it, and it's got a flash to it. So every time it goes around, it kind of catches the light and creates a flash. So that's one of the major setups for king salmon. There's other ways to catch them.
Forward or backwards?
So,
So backwards.
yeah. Like I said, YouTube's kind of my go-to to figure out stuff. Oh, the Brads. So they don't have any hooks in them.
Yeah.
You typically run some beads through here and you have a couple hooks trailing, and that thing just spins in the water, and then you put the tuna fish in there. So that's called the original super bait, or they call them skinnies. And then the other ones I showed you were these cut plugs, and they make those in 3 sizes, so they kind of get progressively bigger. All right. So that's a Kokanee cut plug. That's about a $6 lure.
Yeah, you can fill up the...
Yeah, it doesn't take much bait, just a little bit. And then they have those pads. You could just use that pad to like squirt some scent on that pad, and that pad will hold the scent. But that copper cover's been crushing. What other questions you guys got? I know, so I like one of the questions I always ask, what do you do when you got there and you're not catching fish? All right, that's
My
the,
book. Drink a beer.
there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I have this, I don't believe that there's just something I'm missing. That's my theory. And so I'm just not doing something just right. Because there will be somebody out there on that lake that's catching fish.
Okay. How about different times of day?
Okay. So that's a good question. We didn't really get into some of that. So there's a lot of things that affect the fish bite. So to answer my question and answer yours, if the fish aren't biting, my general theory is I'm not where the fish are. I just need to find a bigger group of fish, because the more fish you find, the more likely you're going to find biters within that group. So either the lake I'm in, which is sometimes my choice, I know it's going to be tougher fishing because it's just, we looked at the dam, the numbers of the fish, there's 300 a day. I know I'm going and it's going to be a miracle if we catch one.
Yeah.
But it's worth it for that type of fish. So that's the first thing, is go where the fish are. But then time of day. So it's somewhat species dependent. I I would say for salmon, one of the things they say for salmon is if the fish can see your bait, it's too late. So early in the morning, you saw it was dark,
Yeah, I thought it was.
right? But they'll bite throughout the day. It's just the bite is better right before sunup, typically for salmon. So you kind of have a couple hour window there of sunup. Now you can catch fish at high noon. I'm not saying you won't. It's just you might get 3 bites from 5 to 7:30, and then nothing, maybe one every couple hours the rest of the day, right? So, but other days it's just the opposite. I've been out to Clear Lake at 3:30 in the afternoon and caught 10 or 15 fish by 6 o'clock. So it's, like I said, species dependent. There's a lot more fish there that are willing to bite. What affects the fish bite? Barometric pressure. Okay, so I would find a chart. See if I can find this little thing. There it is. Oh, where'd you go? These are on Amazon. So good, great, poor. So this is your barometric pressure. And then you've got falling, rising, staying, and that all matters. Okay, so barometric pressure, you could be out there and you're in fish, you can see them on the fish finder and they're just not biting. If you ever go down to the sportsman show and they got them in the tank and you got your bait right there and they're not biting, it could just be the barometric pressure. Or they were just stocked and they're not ready to bite.
So
Yeah, we got talking, sorry, 7 o'clock. So,
the high barometric pressure is don't bite?
I think high is actually, so this is where you want to be. They'll still bite here, and if it's rising, I think that says best.
Okay, so right
But
around
it
30
can't-
inches. Okay.
Yeah.
But if it's real low, you don't like that either.
No, and what I've heard it does is it affects their fish bladder and it almost makes them nauseous. Okay, now some
Rise in the pressure or decrease?
both. So they don't like it too much pressure or too low a pressure, and that'll also cause them to go up and down in the water column, along with temperature. So you might have been catching fish all morning, and all of a sudden you're not. One of the first things I would try is to go deeper or shallower, because those fish have moved up or down for some reason.
So you would like steady, would be your first choice. Okay.
For me, July, when it's sunny, nice, calm, no highs, lows, stable pressure, that's the best. So, but sometimes, when you get that storm coming in, right before that storm, incredible bites. Because what they're thinking is they can feel that pressure coming, so they go feed, bing, bang, boom, boom, because they know it's going to be a while before they're ready to eat again. So there are lots of theories, but barometric pressure does affect them. Color, time of day, so like in the morning, your glows, stuff that glows is better, and the higher in the day as the sun gets up, you want stuff that's more like UV reactive. And typically in the morning they'll be up higher, and then as the day goes they just steadily drop away from that heat, away from that light. They don't feel as protected up at the surface from like birds and things like that. That's just some rules of thumb. So like I know the guys when they're talking like at Brewster, they'll start with say 3 ounces of weight or first thing in the morning, and then every hour they're adding an ounce of weight just to follow the fish down.
The hotter it is, the deeper you go.
Yeah. Yep. And so like right now, like Roosevelt, all the fish are in the top 15 feet of water. And it'll probably be that way until mid-June. Then they start scattering because they bring the water full pool, and it really warms up because it's not flowing as much. And right now you're catching all the runoff, so the water's cold. The lakes right now should be, I would say, 50, 60 degrees, maybe a little cooler. I can't remember, I think it might have been like 48 the other day out at Liberty. But it's been cold this week, so So barometrics, temperature, time of day, those all affect bites. But in general, earlier has been better. You get nighttime bites too. But then you got your fish that are more nighttime fish, right? So they get more active at night too. So that's like walleye typically.
And walleye can be sneaky. They'll hide in the muddy waters and so, up
Yeah.
against muddy banks.
Yep.
So you're in a boat and you troll in between the dirty water and the clean water. That's where I call it dirty water.
There's a Spokane Walleye Club has some great YouTube videos. There's a great Greg Cook, I think it is, and he talks about time of year, what they're doing, spawn, post-spawn, where they're at in the whole Lake Roosevelt Reservoir. But if you want to get into walleye fishing, it can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of different ways to catch them. Sometimes they're really easy, and sometimes they're really hard. But walleye is good eating fish. So 7 o'clock. I'll stay as long as anybody wants to talk, but you guys don't have any questions, or I don't mean to keep you. So, like I said, you guys have my email. I think my phone number's in there. Call me, text me. If you got a question, struggling with something, want to see something, let me know.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Hopefully I shared a little bit of what I learned, what I've struggled with.